Are people really serious about this? Hi, it's Von here. Welcome back to my podcast, Is Fashion Real? I spoke about obviously my challenges in the previous episode, but this time it's about the other things that I have noticed about the industry that I think we can really work on with other people, investors, or just activists, people who are really interested in actually doing something about this industry. So stay tuned to hear some more. Are people really serious about this? So really the way I see the adaptive fashion world is obviously cut into categories of the modeling, the brands, and then the businesses side of things. So like startup world, investors, etc. And if we just start off with the modeling side of things, I know an amazing agency, Zebedee Management, based in the UK, and they have been doing phenomenal work when introducing disabled models into the industry so that they are exposed to other opportunities that other models without disabilities have exposure to. So that is modeling for brands that normally wouldn't feature disabled models, such as Gucci and many. There are many. I can't list them all. So they have been doing well. But if we actually look now in general about this, what I have noticed is that if we are really serious about the full circle of adaptive fashion, we wouldn't just focus on putting the models there, but also what are the brands doing? Instead of just tokenism, which is something I believe that a lot of brands are doing or have done, is that we could also actually have the garments or the products also represent the people wearing them. It's almost like you're having to force these models to wear whatever the brand is choosing, as opposed to, okay, we've got actually adaptive clothing that people can wear, and now we're going to campaign it, such as what Skims did, actually, Kim Kardashian's brand, which I think was fantastic, because now we have a celebrity brand that is actually doing something about it, not just taking on a disabled model and saying, hey, we're inclusive, but actually she thought about that as well. Well, I say she, but there's a bunch of people in the team who probably did that for her as well, but I won't know all of those details. But when it comes to just simply, this is a brand and they're actually doing something for the disabled community and then actually using the models to represent it, for me makes sense. Let's just actually have some adapted items. And again, I'm using the word adapted just because, again, that's what people are familiar with. But why don't we actually make inclusive items? But that's now where we go to the next level of the issues with adaptive fashion. Why are we separating categories where we have women's wear, men's wear, and then adaptive wear? I know that it makes sense from the perspective of, what is a standard offering for women's and men's wear, and then what is adaptive. But if we continue in this notion, we will forever continue the segregation that already exists between disabled people and non-disabled people. That brings me actually on to the next thing about this, that actually there is also a difference between what is being offered, not just the functionalities of, extra zips or easier buttons to open for the adaptive lines, but also actually just aesthetically, it's just different in a bad way. Actually, not just, I'm not, gunning for any brand in particular, but generally there are many where you click on the adaptive line. You're on their website, you click on the adaptive line, and then you see that the offerings, so there's like no dresses compared to the women's wear where there are dresses everywhere. They're frilly, they're beautiful, floral, so many nice designs, colourful is another one that's very much there for the normal standardized garments. But then now you look at the adaptive lines, and yeah, it's always the same. It's always greys, blacks, dark colours that are very much needed for, classics and things like that. But when it comes to now simply taking it up a notch, offering a little bit of orange like this is not possible across the board. Now, I have been a little bit guilty of this as well because I can offer much brighter colours. I did try with obviously the print, making it a little bit more fancy than the usual, which definitely is still not happening with other brands. But you can still take it up a notch. These are the things that I've also been thinking about in terms of the inclusive part, where everyone wants to look good. So the designs just need to look great. And that's the idea, where I will focus on the functionalities first and then do some testing, etc., and then focus on how beautiful are these garments really, and then enhancing that. This doesn't take away from the fact that there are brands who are actually doing a great job at being consistent, because that's another issue where we have lack of consistency when it comes to adaptive fashion, where a brand could just launch an adaptive line and then they won't look back on it again, or just an adaptive item, etc., and that's it. And again, I hate that we have to keep using this word adaptive, but that is what it is referred to. Why should it just be, okay, here you guys go, we've made something for you, it's going to be in that corner, or it's just on that side of the website, instead of integrating it with other things and then just adding a description that, oh, this is also quite useful for this disability, or, and things like that, which in the context of Microsoft and the gaming product that they've created is just fantastic for something like that, because people can use it just because they prefer it. That it looks different, it looks nicer, it's just an easier way to use rather than, oh, it's just for people with disabilities, which I'm not saying Microsoft is doing that. I'm just saying, using them as an example, that they've made something really incredible and can then be translated across the campaigns, just like any other brand can, and then use that to be like, guys, there's this new thing we've made, and not that it's just adaptive. And I think Nike did that very well. If we look at Nike Fly Ease, it's been a while now that they launched this, and it's the universally designed trainers, the sneakers. That one is great because they didn't just put a label like Nike Adaptive. They put their own little name, Fly Ease. And it's about talking about how easy it is to put the sneakers on, which again, I just think is just great and something we should also be trying to do. Now I know this could then be looked at as like, oh, okay, well, if we're always going to kind of create other names for things and with, in a way, kind of hiding the fact that it is adaptive or inclusive, and I completely get that. I just think we have to be smart about how we're going to do it in the sense of Nike Fly Ease. Like, it's showing that it's an easy way of wearing, and it's not that it's just for disabilities, but it's also just anyone who doesn't want to do shoelaces, or who doesn't want to have to, put their shoes on and struggle to put the heel in at the end, things like that. And just because you can literally just put your foot in and it's easy to wear, so that's why they put that in the name. And also just come up with a nice name. You have a campaign from a marketing perspective, it worked for that. So it's these things that I feel like brands aren't taking the time to think about, just because they have other priorities, simply said, or also they're just not comfortable enough. From the research I've done, a lot of people are also a little bit scared of touching that side of things and being able to say, yes, we are now getting into this realm. They would prefer to kind of stick to what they know, or to stay safe, basically. And safe means sticking to the standardized way, simply said, again. So we just need risk takers. We just need people who are willing to say, okay, we want to do something different from the perspective of attracting new business. If we want to just focus on business and what businesses like to focus on, we're attracting new market and marketing in a different kind of way as well, and creating a better name for ourselves, you know. But I've noticed that a lot of the time when brands are trying to do that, they focus on employability, which is obviously really important as well, in the sense of employing different abilities, different races, and etc. Which in the past few years, a lot of new roles of like equity and inclusivity or diversity managers and hiring departments, all of this stuff have really emerged a lot more, and LVMH has been one of the leaders for that, I would say. So, and they've won some awards for that too. So I think there's a lot of work being done there, and if I'm really honest, I think it's because it's just super easy compared to having to create a new collection, doing the research, and then creating something completely new that they're not used to. That's not the standard. Whereas hiring, it's a matter of just speaking with new people and just saying, look, when you're doing the hiring, make sure you also hire different races, different disabilities, etc. So I just think that's why it would be a lot easier to just go out and do that with different brands. And also just hire consultation, because I know a few people who have been in the disability realm or just inclusivity realm and have actually consulted brands on how to be more inclusive. And this is great, and they do the training and things like that. But I think this is still very much short term, and we can do a lot more. In this sense, the consultation can continue on as more now about developing the collections together. So if I'm to go to Tommy Hilfiger, I'm like, okay, your stuff is cool, but we can do a lot more, and I can consult and actually become, you know, a partner of theirs, or, you know, something, you know, anyone who has a link there, let me know. Really, this is how it could really be pushed forward, because you will then be speaking to someone who has done the research already and continues to do so and is actually interested in it. Because I know there's a lot of people, it's a niche thing, so not everyone is interested in it. And that's why it's kind of obvious when you look at brands that then not everyone is just not interested. And if they were, we would be seeing way more things by now. So I think it's a little bit obvious. But that doesn't mean the individuals working there aren't interested. It's really the decision makers and the people who can really make the biggest difference. So one day, I think things will definitely change when now hiring and is done, and people are actually actively like working and things like that. More partnerships can be done and more open-mindedness. I did actually speak to someone who was on the team at Tommy Hilfiger, and she actually was one of the people being researched, where she has a disability, she uses a wheelchair, and then the people developing the collection at Tommy Hilfiger did do some research. They were asking her questions, did some user testing, and as she said, it's really still at its beginning. And what I mean by that is that it's not negative at all. It's just that there's a lot more that they can actually do. Just a little bit more research, not just about the people wearing them or all of that, but also just the research to do with what is out there, what are the other closures that can be used. Can go so just a long way. But again, you need people in the departments doing this. You need more researchers doing this, research and like R&D departments in these fashion brands to really push that forward. And unfortunately, they're just not there, or even if they are there, they still stick to certain limits. And that's how I think we are still in the stage that we are at the moment. But honestly, thank you to those who are doing something already. Tommy Hilfiger, JCPenney, Victoria's Secret as well. And what's in common about all of these is actually this amazing lady, Mindy Shea, who is literally speaking to all these brands, and I think is probably the consultant that I was describing earlier, who is actually actively going out to these brands and telling them, guys, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then creating these fashion shows or speaking to them about employability or then creating collections with them, etc. Or at least just giving them the idea and then they go from there. So even like when it comes to the Nike Fly Ease, it was literally just a boy who really liked Nike but just couldn't wear the trainers, and just sent across a message, and there we were. If you guys ever feel, if you're a brand or if you are just the customer, if you ever feel like something's missing or you want to do something about something, just go for it. You can change lives. Imagine if the person who had messaged Nike didn't do what they did, then Nike Fly Ease may not have existed, or they may have not seen the importance of that. We just need people who are interested. We just need people who want to do something. And it doesn't have to be all sad and, you know, hero story, survival story, because I think that's, again, something that happens a lot when it comes to the marketing side of things, that, oh, we must feel sorry for people with disabilities, or, oh, we must feel sad, all this stuff. But really, they are just people who just want to dress well. In fashion, we just need to do better. I think it's not that hard, to be honest, to just have a team together and make things work. And that brings me to the last point about the investment side of things, because all of what I've discussed has to do with the money involved to get it all done. We need investors for the smaller brands who are actually actively doing things. I think one thing that's tough about the angel investment part is that because it's a fashion brand, people will now view it as, oh, it's just another fashion brand, because it does have a bad reputation that it's a lot of money that is needed, and then ROI or return of investment is not seen for a while or if ever when it comes to fashion brands. And that is totally normal, but that is, again, kind of a closed-minded idea, because yes, that is true because of this traditional way of doing things. But if we now look at, for example, with my brand, it's made to order. So the only time I have to really spend money is when an order is done. So my customer will tell me, I need this, and it's personalized to them. Again, another reason why, you know, the expenses also come into play with what I was talking about in the previous part of this video, that obviously the prices then go higher. But anyway, because it's made to order, because it's personalized, it means then that you're able to get something, and from a business perspective, get something that you want and it can wear, etc., that is personal to you. But that also means from a business perspective, I'm not having to purchase a load of stuff that's going to be stuck and going to be dead stock for many collections or many seasons, and I can breathe. So really, when we look at that, it's already different to the traditional way of doing fashion, and it means you're not going to lose that much money. So that means the rest of the investment will then go to marketing, will then go to more research, because you can never finish research with this kind of design and this kind of complex idea. But it does take a lot of convincing. When I was watching Dragon's Den a few months ago, the England one, Victoria Jenkins, who has been working on her own brand, Unhidden, an adaptive brand for men and women, has actually had very much negative feedback on that show. When she had pitched her idea, she had her models there, she had the clothes on them, they did a little catwalk at the beginning, and they had different abilities to show that different people can wear it. And now when the judges are there and they're like asking questions, at first it was all positive, like, yeah, obviously this is great. But now when we come to the money side of things, obviously we are now talking about, linking to what I said before about prices being too high, or in this case from a business perspective, with what they're looking at for return of investment, there was no profit margin in what she had been offering, or very low profit margin. And from their eyes, obviously that's negative. And I think that's also where I found that really like frustrating on her behalf, because it's like, if you don't invest, I'm not going to be able to make more units, if that's obviously the business model. I'm not going to be able to make more units, so then I can't then have a lower price from the manufacturers, because the more units you produce by them, the lower the costs. So that then means I can't now get the desired price to then get that profit margin up, to then get this investment from you. So then it becomes a vicious cycle. And when we put the money side things aside, the advice that they gave her was, maybe you should just be a consultant and you should consult brands. And I'm thinking, this is not what she came on the show for, you know? I think they meant well, but I just think this is, again, what we're talking about, lack of support. How about you, as my dragon, can support me? And you can tell me how I can increase that profit margin. Because it's a simple thing, like really, I think the hardest thing is the idea. You need the idea. You need something that looks great. You need the logistics side of things. And then we can, just make everything else better. And if any of the dragons are hearing this, I'm your girl. That's what I think is the reality of adaptive fashion, or inclusive fashion. If you have been listening to my podcast until now, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe on any platform that you're listening to this on or watching this on. And I'll be back with the next episode, still in the series of adaptive fashion on Is Fashion Real? Bye.